Hello, welcome to Workplace Wake Up. I'm Jen Shaw. Every week, I spend about 15 minutes covering legal developments, introducing you to interesting guests, and providing some entertainment to start your workday. Hello, everyone. 2022 is coming to a close. I don't know about all of you, but I feel like this year flew by. I cannot believe we are at the end of December. So, in the workplace, we have a lot of new laws coming into play. We have new rules that we have to think about. I have talked about some of those already. Many of you have joined us for our annual employment law update webinars. So thank you very much for coming out with us. We had a great time with all of you. We love being able to share this information and make sure that everybody's doing what they need to be doing. Today, what I want to talk about are a few of the new laws that we need to think about for 2023, but also what is your to-do list when you have a new year in front of you as a human resources professional or an employment lawyer? What do I want you to make sure you're doing? So first of all, very quick review of the new laws, okay? Remember that we have Senate Bill 1162, which is all about pay transparency. We now, for employers with 15 or more employees, we've got pay scales that must be included in advertisements and job postings. We've also got, for employers with 100 or more employees, pay data reporting requirements to the California Civil Rights Department, formerly, of course, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. We have Assembly Bill 1949, bereavement leave. Remember, this has been on the table for literally decades, and for whatever reason, made it through committee this year. The governor signed it. We now have bereavement leave. It is unpaid, but you do need to let employees use the time that they have on the books. There are some specific rules there, so make sure you're familiar. We have Assembly Bill 1041, which adds leave for a designated person under the California Family Rights Act and the California Healthy Workplaces, Healthy Families Act sick leave law. So this is important for you, of course, for updating handbooks and policies. We'll talk about that in a minute. We have Assembly Bill 2188, which of course does not become effective until January 1 of 2024. This is the marijuana protection, right? That actually elevates cannabis use to the same level of protection as race, national origin, sex, and the other protected categories. The big practical impact on this one is going to be drug testing. So for those of you who do drug testing, you've got some homework to do. Then we have SB 523, Senate Bill 523, which prohibits discrimination based on reproductive health decision-making. This law is, of course, in response to the overturn of Roe versus Wade. Senate Bill 951, the wage replacement benefits that will be paid when employees are on a protected leave of absence or leave under their policies. These wage replacement benefits will be paid at a higher rate now. We also have SB 1044, which is sort of an odd one. It talks about the fact that during a state of emergency, which, by the way, does not include COVID, there are various protections for employees, including that they have to have access to their cell phones or other communication devices, and they need to have the ability to leave the premises without being subjected to some sort of adverse employment action. Of course, 2022 also brought us a slew of federal regulations and a number of court decisions. So if you have not joined our legal update yet, we do have one more in January next month. So make sure you sign up for that. In the meantime, here's your to-do list if you're a human resources professional, in-house employment lawyer, etc. Number one, update that employee handbook. Every year, folks, I know it sounds like a lot, but things change just enough here in California and in many other locations as well, by the way. You're gonna need to roll it out every year. So get it in shape, make the changes you need to make. We always have a slew of handbooks in queue beginning in about August of every year so that we can get clients, help them turn those things around, get them out, get them distributed. Number two, train your employees. Whether it's a training year for equal employment opportunity issues, sexual harassment prevention, for example, or you're just going to be training employees on other things that relate to their job, other cultural issues that are important to you. Get the training done, get it scheduled, and make sure people participate. Part of the deal, I call it the compensation bargain with your employees, is that if they're going to get paid, they have to do certain things. They have to follow the rules. They have to behave appropriately. They have to come to training. So schedule that training. Get it in there. Make sure you've got it on calendar. Give them enough time to be able to attend. Number 3, start looking at your retention and promotion policies. This is going to be very important now that we have all these new rules for pay transparency. How do you promote? How do you recruit? How do you hire? All of these functions are going to be subject to scrutiny because of our pay transparency laws and, of course, equal employment opportunity. So take a look at these processes in your workplace. Make sure that you can back up what you're doing, that you can defend what you're paying people, what you're calling people, what their schedules are, whatever it is you're doing. Next thing I want you to do is think about workplace safety. This is not a podcast about politics, and I'm not going to go into politics. What I will tell you is it is absolutely unbelievable to me. I added up yesterday how many calls I have had in our office from our clients about workplace violence issues. In 2022, I had over 100 calls about potential workplace violence issues. And you add to that the gun violence that is happening. We have to focus on workplace safety. We have to be sure that we have policies and procedures that keep our employees safe, where they understand what they should do if they don't feel safe, that you have plans, you understand the importance of planning for an emergency, and you ensure that your employees understand what those plans are and what their roles are in them. Okay? I also want you to think about corporate culture. Now, everything I've already listed to you relates to corporate culture, right? What your handbook looks like, how you promote, how you recruit, how you hire. But I really want you to think about your culture. Be brave. Ask the tough questions. We did a survey a couple of months ago in our firm, and we asked people to tell us what's going well, what they'd like to change. And I have to tell you, some of the responses I got were really upsetting. I thought I was doing well in one area, and then I got some feedback where I thought, oh my goodness. I mean, I literally thought I was going to cry. It was horrible. And then I realized, okay, wait a minute. I asked for this. I wanted this feedback. Let's take this feedback and let's figure out how to make things better, right? And I feel like we have a pretty great work environment, and everybody said, this is a great place to work. There's just a couple things I'd like to tweak. But of course, I focused on the couple things they'd like to tweak, right? If you think about your corporate culture and you think about the feedback, what you want to be hearing, how you can improve, be brave. Ask for people's perspectives and listen when they give them to you. There's nothing more valuable when you're trying to develop a culture of cohesion and belonging and teamwork. You've got to be sure that you are listening to what people are saying. The last thing I really want you to think about for your checklist is how you're going to stay on top of the law. There are a lot of different ways to do this, right? Every law firm has a blog. We have a blog. We have a podcast. People write articles. We write articles. Whatever floats your boat. But find a couple of resources that you can rely on to be sure that you are aware of changes when they happen. And those are not only legal changes, right? In California, we get new laws every year, and they're usually effective on January 1, sometimes of the year immediately following, sometimes a year or two later. But when you talk about court decisions, when you talk about regulations from administrative agencies, like the Civil Rights Department, like the Federal Department of Labor, like Cal OSHA, think about everything we've went through with COVID-19. right? And COVID is still here, and we're still waiting for the emergency temporary standards and what's going to change in terms of how we respond to COVID. Will there be a permanent standard? We'll have to see. But the reality is, when you think about how things change, you've got to find a way to keep up. So find an external resource. And I have about 10 of them. That there are a couple law firms I really like what they do. I make sure I'm on all of the lists for all of the enforcement agencies: Department of Labor, California Division of Labor Standards Enforcement, the California Civil Rights Department, the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. I want to know what's going on. And then I also am constantly looking out for webinars, conferences, things where I can pick up some important information. And that's what you should be doing too. You have to continue growing in your position, right? So many times I think we get so busy and we feel overwhelmed with what is already on our plate that the thought of adding something else to our plate makes us nauseous, right? We just think, okay, I'm already completely overwhelmed. How am I going to take on one more thing? But here is what I have found. My life gets easier when I know what I'm doing, right? When I'm staying up on the law, when I know what the court decisions have said, when I understand what these enforcement agencies are telling employers to do, when I take the time and invest in learning about that, my job is easier. My life is easier. Rather than doing a big cram session at the end of the year when I'm trying to teach our legal update, right? And there is certainly a bit of cramming that happens. But the truth is, I read these cases, I read these regulations, I read the bills when they come out from the legislature. I want to be sure that I'm staying on top of things. And that's what I want you to do as well. So make sure you find a resource or 5 that you can trust and stay on top of this stuff. Build it into your schedule. You'll never find time to read the article or read the blog post or listen to the podcast if you don't put it on your schedule. So do yourselves a favor, carve that time out. Make sure that you have the time you need to be able to learn what you need to learn and put it into practice. Because remember, those are 2 different things. Learning what you need to know, staying up on the law, the regulations, the rules is one thing. Figuring out practically and pragmatically how are you going to implement those in your workplace, that's a different issue. And that requires collaboration. That requires talking to other people. That requires sometimes benchmarking with other organizations to figure out what they're doing. So if you leave this to chance, if you leave this to sort of an informal process where you'll try to get to it when you have time, you'll probably never get to it. So that's a very important part of the checklist. Let me say this at the end of the year. I am so proud of everyone we work with, all of you who participate in our podcast, read our articles, come to our training sessions. We are passionate about employment law. We want you to know what you need to know. We love working with you. We think about you even when we're not billing you, okay? You become part of our Shaw Law Group family. And it is such an honor and privilege to have all of you who trust us with your work or with the time that you have, which is of limited supply, to listen to a podcast or read one of our articles. We are very, very grateful for that. And we look forward to working with you more in the new year. We wish you all sorts of good luck and happiness and wonderful things for 2023. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and I'll talk to you next year. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to spread the word, please share it with others, post about it on social media, and/or rate and review it. Of course, you can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and email us at info@shawlawgroup.com.
Workplace Wake Up, including its guests and hosts, do not provide legal advice in this podcast. Do not act upon any of the information discussed in this podcast without consulting a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction.